Everybody's fighting demons that you don't know about. We're running a business. People are carrying burdens that you don't know about, so just give them some grace.
The community belief part, face-to-face connection with your finance professional matters.
If you're feeling like, I wouldn't mind doing something different, do something different. Take the leap because it's usually rewarding.
What do you think the biggest misconception about credit unions is? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Today's episode of Get In is brought to you by Cowpokes Work and Western, a trusted Indiana retailer known for quality clothing, boots, and accessories that fit your American lifestyle. As you plan for the holidays, it's a great moment to shop small and support the local businesses that make our communities strong. What sets Cowpokes apart is their approachable expertise. Their staff makes it easy to find the right fit, whether it's your first pair of boots or a new jacket you'll reach for all winter long. With season-long holiday specials and gift cards that make excellent presents, Cowpokes remains the place we confidently send people year-round. My guest today is John Huesing, the president and CEO of Elements Financial, the Indianapolis-based member-owned credit union that empowers more than 100,000 members nationwide with smarter banking and stronger financial futures. He is the former vice president and treasurer at IU Health, had a stint at Eli Lilly, holds both a bachelor's in finance and an MBA from IU's Kelley School of Business. Today, he is driving economic growth and financial well-being all across Indiana and beyond. I'm really excited to learn the genesis of Elements Financial, how this started with the partnership with a rather large institution that every listener is going to know about. Learn about your story from Pike to Bloomington, a brief stint up in Chicago that we might dive into a little bit, and even going across the Atlantic to Switzerland. I'm really excited for this one. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
I'm really excited to learn how a guy from the west side of Indianapolis ends up leading Elements Financial, but also how you ended up, just talking about a stint in Switzerland, moving your family for 3 years. We're going to get into a lot of fun stuff today, but I think this story starts on the west side of Indianapolis at Pike High School. Go Red Devils.
That's right. Go Red Devils.
Okay, so was it always in your plan to be a finance guy, go down to IU Bloomington and, get involved with that?
No. I knew I was going to go to college somewhere. I needed to find that happy medium of, I didn't want to go down the street because I needed to get out of the house, grow a little bit, spread your wings. But I needed to go someplace that I could afford, because I didn't have too many dimes to rub together. So I picked IU. It was affordable and relatively nearby. I also, at that time in my life, I cared a lot about bicycle racing. I raced at the Major Taylor Velodrome, and so I wanted to be able to come home for events.
Was Marion High School or Marion University a cycling powerhouse then?
It wasn't. I considered going to Marion because my coach at the Velodrome at the time was trying to get the program started at Marion, but it hadn't gained any purchase.
Because I think today they're like the Alabama of cycling, right?
They absolutely are.
Which is pretty cool.
They absolutely
like right here in
are.
our backyard.
Yeah, right.
So what was the vibe? What was the, let's say the stereotype. What was the stereotype of Pike High School when you were coming through there?
So it was much, much smaller than it is now. So my graduating class was, 260 or 270 people. So it was pretty small. It wasn't out in the countryside, right? Like it was when my parents were younger. But the vibe was sort of small and mighty. We had a pretty decent basketball team, which was awesome because we're in Indiana.
Like township schools and IPS schools evolve and change over time. And just I actually want to bring someone on to talk about the evolution of Indianapolis public schools and townships and stuff, because it's so fascinating to me, especially how big now.
Oh, yeah,
the Pikes and the North Centrals
Absolutely.
And all of those township schools are. It's wild.
Absolutely.
So you end up going, was Little 500 what it is today, what people think about it today
Absolutely.
as you were going through there?
Absolutely.
So is this you're a cycling fan?
Well, I did not go to IU in order to ride Little 500. In fact, I was sort of a cycling snob about it, right? I thought, okay, Little 500, that's an intramural event, whatever. But I did it 4 years. It was awesome. It was a great experience. Met a lot of people. It was really great.
Was cycling a big deal? Just in general?
No. Oh no. I mean,
How did you get into cycling?
Before I had my driver's license, I needed a way to just just to get out and go, see the countryside, so to speak. And so I started riding my bike, and I liked it. I was good. I joined like a club, and they had organized rides, and I just took to it. It was great.
That's awesome. I think that's super fun. And like, I feel like when you're, 14, 15 years old, like your bicycle is just like your first, it's like freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a sports person like I am, I love almost every sport. I mean, I played baseball until they started throwing curveballs. I played football until I wasn't big enough to actually play. And so the great thing about cycling is they kind of take all shapes and sizes, and it's just easy.
You just gotta have like relentless motor, just like
right.
churn.
That's right.
It's wild.
That's right.
What did your parents do?
So my dad worked at formerly INB, Indiana National Bank. So he was kind of an operations guy at INB. INB is part of JP Morgan Chase now, so it was sort of subsumed in that consolidation. My mother worked at American United Life Insurance, which is now part of One America. So they were both business people in downtown Indianapolis.
Okay, so you end up going down to IU. Did you know what you wanted to study when you got down there?
No, I think I was officially just a I don't know major when I rolled in there. I migrated towards business, not because I had any necessarily desire or acumen for it, but that's what I knew because both my parents went to an office every day and worked. And so I headed in the direction of the business school and started taking more and more business classes. And, candidly, I just did better in finance than marketing. And so I sort of stuck with it. And
here we are.
And here we are.
Was Kelly as revered as it is today then?
When I was an undergrad, it wasn't called Kelly. It was just the IU School of Business. But it was very revered. I mean, it has been a great undergraduate school of business for years and years. Yeah. And then over time, the graduate program, was elevated, I guess, in stature. They renamed it Kelly School of Business, and it continued to grow. So it was always strong, very strong.
And so you ended up doing your undergrad down in Bloomington, and then you end up later on getting your MBA from the evening program.
That's right.
Kelly,
yeah.
Right?
So I graduated from Bloomington undergrad. I moved to Chicago, like you said.
It's okay.
I left the state.
It's okay. We understand. You came back, though. That's what matters.
That's right. I went to the big city I was up there for about 7 years. And then I came back to work for Uncle Eli's medicine show, as I like to say. And once I came back to work for Eli Lilly, then I said, okay, now it's time for me to get my MBA. And I went to IU.
What did you miss the most about Indiana while you were in Chicago?
It's easy to live in Indiana. I probably didn't realize it all that much as a young adult. I really realize it now. But Indianapolis is an easy place to live, work, and play. And there are a lot of cities, Chicago being one, New York being another, they make it really easy to work. They don't make it all that easy to live and raise a family and do other things.
Getting groceries
in
a place like Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, there's lots of fun to be had. Like, there's an energy and a vibrance in work and all the stuff. Like,
that's right.
Sometimes it gets, like, I'm not the biggest Chicago fan, mostly because whenever I visit, my bookends are always terrible. Traffic's horrible, parking's tough.
Yes.
Like getting in there, you're kind of like already a little grumpy.
Yes.
And then you're leaving, usually after like a long weekend where I've had a few beverages. So I'm like moving a little slow already. Traffic's bad. Sunday morning, I'm trying to get home. And and by the way, I'm going to lose an hour.
Yeah.
Sick.
I mean, you're in stopped traffic on a freeway at midnight in some of those cities. And it's a little crazy.
Yeah.
I guess another thing that I missed was, I don't want this all to be about cycling, but you can't ride your bike in the city of Chicago, right? There's just, traffic, it's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So there's not the way to get out and ride your bike and exercise.
It all comes back to cycling.
Most things
before we were recording, we talked about The Fastest Man in the World, like reading the book from
Major Taylor,
about Major Taylor. It's an incredible read. I would, again, I think I've suggested it one other time on the show, but I would definitely suggest go and read that. The level of stardom that Major Taylor rose to in the early 1900s, incredible.
Internationally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't quite think that people understand the crazy. They would race bicycles for 7 days in a row.
Yeah.
Like you would sleep, I guess, or what. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Insanity. So we could talk cycling all day long. So you end up coming home to work for Uncle Eli's medicine show. So you're probably what, 20, like late 20s at that point?
Late 20s, yeah.
Late 20. And you get like what I would say is one of the coveted positions in Indiana, like Indianapolis proper. Like if you work in
Absolutely.
finance at Eli Lilly in your
That's right.
20s, like you're in pretty good shape, and like you're gonna probably have maybe a pool at your house someday. Like you're gonna have a pretty like a comfortable life for
Yeah,
foreseeable future.
Lilly's a fabulous company that does a lot of good in the world, and is a great place to work. And working for Lilly is what brought me back to Indianapolis. There were some lifestyle things that makes Indy a better place to live than Chicago. I was a child of the 70s and the early 80s, and there was less going on in Indianapolis in the 70s and the 80s. And so part of what I was seeking in Chicago is, activity and, restaurants and sports and all that kind of thing. And you get that there, but you also get a lot of life hassle, right? It's like I said, it's a little bit harder to live up there. But what's a really good reason to come back to Indianapolis? Work for Eli Lilly.
When people around the world think of Indianapolis, you definitely think of St. Elmo Steakhouse and Eli Lilly, right?
right. That's right.
Those two go hand in hand.
That's right. Yeah.
So you come back. How long do you end up working at Lilly? Because you end up becoming the assistant treasurer.
Right. So I was there a total of 17 years, which is a long time. So 17 years. All of that was here in Indianapolis, except for the 3 years I was abroad.
Yeah, which I do want to talk about. So you're working at Lilly for 17 years. After how many years did it take for them to give you this opportunity to do something pretty crazy?
10 years in.
Okay, so you're a decade into this. So this would be late 30s then.
Yeah.
A decade into your career.
That's right.
Working for Uncle Eli's medicine company. I love that. And this opportunity to do something really crazy comes. In your family life, like what was the size of your family at this opportunity?
Yeah, so married, 2 kids, and before we went over to Switzerland, my kids were 8 and 10.
8 and 10?
So young. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking maybe it was like, before school.
Yeah.
Okay. So take me to the opportunity where someone comes to you and said, is this like you were voluntold, or is this like what's the scenario where someone says, hey, you could go to Switzerland?
Oh boy, that's a good one. I was not voluntold. I was interested in going overseas. And this comes from a guy who almost never been west of the Mississippi. It's just like I'm not a well-traveled person. Again, cycling had a little bit to do with it because European cycling is way more developed than US cycling. So I paid attention to the Tour de France. Everybody's heard about the Tour de France, right? And so I pay attention to Europe. At the time, Lilly was trying to get some of its, young, up-and-coming people to take roles outside of the States, because that does 2 things, right? It develops them. They move away from the mothership and learn to do things on their own. And it also brings some of the Indianapolis strength, culture, and vibe to various parts of the earth. So Lilly was starting to talk about it. My first opportunity that didn't end up working out was to go to Athens, Greece. It fell apart and we didn't go, and that's okay. I was disappointed at the time, but glad when I ultimately got to go to Switzerland. And then the opportunity for Switzerland came up, and an interesting connection there is the trading company that I ran in Geneva, Switzerland, was set up kind of for tax and treasury purposes generally, and I was already in the treasury department, so there was some connection there.
When you say like treasury, like for those that aren't finance people, what does that mean?
So for a small company, treasury, if you think about finance and accounting is keeping track of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Treasury is all about cash and paying bills and collecting cash. So it's sort of the lifeblood of the company, the ins and outs of cash flow and dollars. When you get to a larger company, though, it gets a lot bigger because you start, obviously the numbers get bigger, but you borrow money, you invest money. If you're Eli Lilly, you've got sales in other countries that are denominated in different currencies. So you've got foreign exchange to worry about.
That's wild.
So yeah.
Like how much yen you have versus how many US dollars
Absolutely.
you have.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. Sometimes I like to work on our treasury here at Get Indiana. Just like, when you're sending out the invoices.
Yeah, yeah.
It's time to build up our treasury a little bit.
That's right. That's
Okay,
exactly
so you
right.
end up taking it's your
And
whole
my
family.
That's right.
You all move over
That's
to
right.
Switzerland.
That's right.
For 3 years.
That's right. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
It was great.
Was there a moment though, like you're on this plane with how do you get your stuff there?
That's a huge, complicated problem. You pack up you look at your house, and basically you divide it into thirds, right? 1/3 of the stuff that you're just going to get rid of. 1/3 of the stuff that you're not going to take, but you're going to store until you get back, and then 1/3 of the stuff you're going to take with you, and you divide that final third into what we call the air shipment and the sea shipment. And you send the really essential stuff in the air shipment, which is a small amount, and then you wait for months and months for the sea shipment to arrive. So if you've seen those pictures of like the big ocean liner boats with the looks like semi trucks, stacked up on top of each other, that's the sea shipment. So you're waiting to get your stuff on the slow boat.
And then like by the time it got there, you were like ready to pack it up and like go back home. Yeah, there you go. That checks out.
Pretty much.
What do you think? So you were in your late 30s.
Yep.
You pick up your entire family with an 8 and a 10-year-old and your wife, and
That's
you
right.
move to Switzerland for
That's
3
right.
years.
That's right.
What do you think the biggest lesson you learned, whether about finance and business and leadership and culture, or just about yourself during that time period was?
I was a middle-aged white guy from Indiana, right? I've never been in the minority. I've never been a stranger in a strange land, right? And so just the experience of being deposited in a different environment, the language is different. You need to learn how they do things there, how they live, work, play, worship, all of those things. They're different. I tried really hard not to come across as, the ugly American, give me my Coca-Cola. That was a good mind-opening learning experience. The other thing, if you take your family with you, it's harder on the trailing spouse. We went there. I went to work every day. I was the boss. People spoke English to me, right? I mean, if I needed something done, people helped me, right? It was not easy, but it was easier. My wife is at home, going to the grocery store, which are different than they are here, right? She has to go.
I think they just call it the grocery, right?
Well, she has to go to the butcher, then the baker, then the candlestick maker. They're all smaller, little bitty things.
Wait, they only sell chocolate and cheese, right?
Only chocolate and cheese. Yeah. Only chocolate. But yeah.
I mean, sign me up. I'm kind of in.
Switzerland's the most beautiful country in the world.
When you guys look back on that, when you and your wife look back and talk about that experience, like, how do you guys look like, oh, that was really hard and terrible. We're really glad we did that. Like, I wish we didn't do that. Like,
all of us, my wife and I and the kids, we all are super, super thrilled that we did it because we all appreciate the opening of the mind. I mean, my kids used to think Indianapolis was the edge of the earth. And now they have friends all over the globe, right? Because they met people, in Geneva. Yeah. And it was very hard at the beginning, but at the end, we didn't want to come back. This is our home. Of course, we were going to come back. Yeah. It would have been nice to stay a little longer.
And I think you go from like working in, like, I would say Lilly is one of, when you think about coming back to Indianapolis, like, oh yeah, working at Lilly is a lot of people's dream. Right. Working in like the finance in Switzerland, that's kind of like a pinnacle thing too.
Yeah,
being a finance guy in Switzerland.
It was pretty cool.
You end up coming back. Yeah. And I think then, okay, so if my timetable is correct here, 10 years in, you go to Switzerland for 3 years, you come back, you do 4 more years. So this would put you in your early 40s.
That's right.
At Lilly.
That's right.
I'm sure, like, there's this theme of like, okay, you took this one risk and you kind of go overseas and, spend some time there. You come back, you do 4 more years, and the risk bug starts to itch you a little bit again.
Well, it was a bit of I was the assistant treasurer, and it was a great job. I wanted to be a treasurer. I wanted to do more. I might have eventually become the treasurer of Eli Lilly, but it wasn't in the cards in the near term. And so I started looking around, and I thought, I would like to take another risk. I would like to try to lead an organization as opposed to being a reasonably important cog in the machine. I wanted to lead the machine, and so through some connections, I was interviewed at IU Health and left what I thought was healthcare in the pharmaceutical side to what really is healthcare in the hospital side.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting transition as well.
I want to talk about a little bit of leaving Eli Lilly. I think that is a really challenging thing to do. Like I have friends who've gone through the MBA program there and, they get back and you get a nice salary increase, you get some stock options, you buy a house that's kind of big up in Carmel and you're like, and it becomes really hard. Like really, really, and you're just like, and on paper, there's nothing wrong with it. Like you're doing good stuff. You're working at one of the biggest, if not the biggest company in Indiana. Right. You're, making good money. On paper, all things good. But sometimes like you get the itch or you like fantasize of like what life could have been like if I would have done. When you look back and think about making that transition, what did you weigh that finally got you to say, hey, I'm ready to go and do something different?
I was just ready to take a chance on myself, again, I guess. I mean, Lilly's a great company and I had a great job and I had a great network of people there and I enjoyed what I was doing. I'm sort of arguing against myself a little bit here. Lilly does a great job of moving people around to different roles in the organization. So there's a lot of diversity of roles. But I was in particular looking to run a treasury department, and I wanted to run a treasury department for a large organization that had debt that they needed to borrow and investments that they needed to make, and IU Health was a great opportunity.
And so how long do you end up staying at IU Health?
For just over 10 years.
Okay. So during that time frame is where you first got on the board of Elements Financial?
I was on the board after I got back from Switzerland while I was at Eli Lilly as an employee. Yeah. I was on the board. Then when I went to IU Health, I stepped off for a short period, but then I came back.
Okay. So this is an important thing that I think all the listeners need to know about is we need to talk about the beginning of Elements Financial because it's so ingrained, like literally so connected to Eli Lilly.
Absolutely.
So this is taking me back to 1930, I believe.
That's right. So the origin story of Elements Financial was a company, ultimately called Eli Lilly Federal Credit Union. It started back in 1930. And it started like many credit unions started, where employees or groups of people felt like they weren't getting a great deal when they interacted with banks. And they felt like they were, if they needed to borrow money for a house, they had a loan shark down the street that would lend them money, but that wasn't fair or safe for a good idea. And so employees of various companies get together and say, let's just pool our money and like take care of each other. It's not unlike the way Blue Cross and Blue Shield, insurance started. It was like people said, let's come together, let's form a group, a cooperative, and we'll take care of each other. And that's how the credit union started in 1930. So in the depths of the Depression, people needed help. Eli Lilly was a solid company, not like it is today, but much smaller, but still a good company. People came together and said, let's take care of each other. And they formed a cooperative inside Eli Lilly. It ultimately blossomed into a credit union, ultimately got reasonably large, and then many years later turned into Elements.
I want to dive into like starting this thing. So like this one person come together and like kind of lead the charge as like the organizer and say like, hey, you give me $100 and you give me $100 and you give me $100 and then we'll take loan applications to see who gets $500.
Yeah.
It seems a little risky.
I don't know because I wasn't there. I haven't lived through that, but I imagine the beginning is something pretty similar to that. We're all in this together. Yeah. Let's take care of each other.
And if we talked about the evolution of financial products, like what kind of things were offered and this is like a very historical question, so feel free to say you don't know the answer. But like 1930, let's say Lilly probably had, I don't know, over 1,000 employees or whatever back then. Yep. You get $500 from everybody or whatever. So you're sitting on a decent little chunk of money there, and you're like loaning out for mortgages or for
not like a proper mortgage like you think of as today, but small loans to maybe for Christmas, or a small loan to make an improvement to your house, or maybe a down payment or something like that.
I think that's an interesting thread to pull on of like you originally Eli Lilly Federal Credit Union starts to take care of each other.
Yes.
Like, I don't think when I go in bank, like historically, that I think about putting my money in a bank as taking care of people.
Right.
I think that it's like, it's for me. I want my half of 1% or whatever.
So there's two things, right? It's for you, for sure, and it's also for the shareholders of that bank, right? Because the mission of the bank exists to provide a product to you, which is your mortgage, right? But they want to make money at that, right? So, and that's all well and good. You get what you need. You have to pay for it. You pay an interest rate, right? And that provides income to the owners of the bank, which are the shareholders of the bank. Right?
So, okay. So I could be, if I wanted to partake in both sides of that from a bank, I would need to own PNC stock and I would need to use PNC products.
That's right.
So they would be taking my interest and then maybe give it back to me in shareholder value over here.
That's exactly right.
But with a credit union, it's different.
Well, it's different because we don't use the word owner, we use the word member, right? But the member and the depositor borrower are the same people, right? So you gave the example of if you wanted to play both sides of that, you could, right? But in many cases, they're different people. There are folks that own PNC stock, to your example, that don't bank with PNC. They bank with somebody else or whatever. But in the credit union world, if you are a member, which is analogous to an owner, right? That means you are also a depositor and borrower. Yeah. So it's one and the same. And the beauty of that is, theoretically at least, it lowers the profit requirement, which is why credit unions are not for profit. Doesn't mean we don't make a profit, because we do. You need to make a profit in order to live. But you don't need as much of one, because if you're a bank owner, what you really want is the stock price to go up, and you really want dividends to be paid, right? If you're a borrower at a bank, you want to pay as little as possible, right? Or you want to earn as much as possible on your deposits. Well, that's contrary to what the owners of the bank necessarily want, because they want to pay you less or charge you more.
Let's say, like, who's in the stock market? You know, like people in the stock, if you're buying the ownership side of it, then it's like, well, someone who needs money is going out and financing, right?
That's right.
So it's like not everyone who would be opening a credit card or doing whatever there is the same person that owns stock.
That's exactly right.
So like it does get to be interesting there of who's on each side of the coin there.
That's right.
Versus, okay, we're talking, these are Eli Lilly employees that come together. Do they end up paying like a membership fee?
I don't know if there was a fee or not.
Okay.
But the thought is they pool their money, and then let's say Joe comes in and says, "Hey, I want to borrow from the kitty to, buy a house or whatever." The group then says, "Okay, we'll lend you the money because we believe in you and we think you're going to pay us back. And we're going to charge you a little bit of interest because we've got to keep this machine running, right? A portion of it is Joe's money because Joe is a member, and we're going to charge Joe less than we otherwise would because Joe's part of the family, and it's people helping people.
And it remains that way for over 70 years, I believe. 1930.
We're at 95.
Well, it remains only Eli Lilly.
Oh, that's right.
Correct?
That's right.
So for over 70 years, this is an exclusive club. If you don't work for Uncle Eli's medicine show, you can't get into the club.
That's exactly right.
And that's like a lot of things. There were tons of different, like, pick your organization credit union, like it's exclusive.
That's right.
What ended up being the reason that this opens up where anyone can figure out their way into being a member?
Being as closely intertwined with Eli Lilly is both a blessing and a challenge, right? It's a blessing because Eli Lilly is an awesome company, and there's a lot of strong depositors there.
Yeah, there was definitely from the treasurer say there was treasure.
There was it's definitely treasure, right? But there's a little bit of a thought about investing in the stock market, right? You probably shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket. and invest all of your money in one particular stock. Now, if you, in retrospect, if you did that with Eli Lilly or Apple or something, you'd be pretty good. But in general, diversification is a smart move, right? Because of the whole eggs in one basket kind of thing. It's not that much different from a credit union perspective. If Eli Lilly was, I don't know, purchased by Pfizer, which was something that we worried about, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? That would not bode well for Eli Lilly Federal Credit Union because Pfizer already has a credit union and Eli Lilly disappears, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a diversification play, really.
And it's interesting if you think of cycles where if times were tough, let's say stock price goes down and everyone's like looking for a loan for Christmas, that's a lot of people coming from just one area to say, hey, we need money for Christmas gifts.
That's right.
Versus if you have this diversification, then I'm thinking of like big Indiana company. Well, let's say if IU Health is up and
IU Health,
so-and-so.
sure.
Yeah.
Cummins or Roche or a lot of those others.
And you expand your community a little bit there.
Absolutely.
So is it early 2000s, I believe?
That's right.
It ends up opening. Eli Lilly Credit Union opens up for more than just Eli Lilly.
Right. I think it was 2008. So right middle aughts, I guess that is.
That seems like a marketing headache to be like, we're Eli Lilly Credit Union.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But everyone can. We welcome everyone.
Yeah. And we did a bridge strategy. Honestly, we were Eli Lilly Federal Credit Union for an interim period. So those initials are ELFCU. So we had an interim period. We were actually called ELFQ, ELFCU. And then we moved all the way to Elements, and it was a well thought out marketing strategy. And if you look closely, there's still connections between Elements and Lilly.
Like what?
The red is the same color. EL Elements, Eli Lilly. There's the what is an element? It's part of the natural sciences, and there's biochemistry and all of that connection with Eli Lilly. So there's some connections there.
When did the Elements brand get launched?
Elements was 2015, I believe.
Okay. And when did you join the team at Elements?
As CEO, I joined 2 years ago.
2 years.
Yeah,
okay.
Almost 2 years.
Are there still people that are like, I still remember when it was Lilly?
Oh yeah. We've got a number of people that have been around for 25, 27 years, so a long time ago.
When you think about the benefits of a credit union versus a traditional bank, if you were just making that simple for the average listener who might not have a finance degree or their MBA, how would you explain what the perks of a bank and the perks of a credit union are?
Banks have an easier time if they want to get big. And part of that is because it's much easier to buy a competitor. It's also easier to issue stock and borrow money in the bond market if you want to grow. So it's much easier. You have more. This is a finance term, but you have easier access to capital, right? In order to expand, it's much harder to do it in the credit union space because we don't have stock. Right? I can't issue more shares of Elements to get some money to go buy another credit union. That's not really how it works. So growth is easier on the banking side. It's more challenging on the credit union side. The benefit of the credit union space is, first of all, there's in my opinion, there's the improved sort of feel goods of this is an organization that helps people. This is not an organization that is only in it to make more money for shareholders. So it feels good. And because they tend to be smaller, there are a couple of larger credit unions, but they tend to be smaller. They're also a lot more community focused, which a lot of people value. And if you get right down to the sort of the brass tacks of the financing, you tend to get better rates on your deposits and your loans because the profit incentive is less at a credit union.
I've never thought about it in a way of your local dollar. Because from a commercial banking side, it's like, let's say, I don't know, there's a development going up somewhere and Elements you guys finance?
We do, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So depositors could also be helping fund
Oh yeah,
the growth of our community.
that's right. You're driving down the road and you see a sign that says,
Is there like a project that you guys have been a part of? That, I don't know if you're allowed to say that.
Yeah,
but-
there's a number of products around Central Indiana, hotels and residential home developments. We're doing a lot of them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to think about. Or even like a family. Let's say a family is building their first home somewhere, and like the fact that you bank or that you do you call it bank? What do you say?
That's hard, but I mean, yeah, you could say bank. Yeah,
Yeah, or
do
like,
business with.
You
or-
do business. Yes, the fact that you do business with Elements could mean that like someone gets their first time home. You're financing their home build or their home buy. Like
Absolutely. I mean, it's a much more local feel. It's kind of like farm to table, right? I'm happy to eat beef that grew up in Indiana, right? I mean, it's closer, it's more local.
I've got a holiday deal you do not want to miss. From November 1st through December 31st, Hughes Culinary is offering a 20% bonus gift card deal. Here's how it works. When you buy $125 or more in gift cards, you'll get 20% back in bonus cards. That means if you spend $125, you're getting an extra $25 for free. Spend $250 and you'll score an extra $50 in bonus cards. That's free money you can use to celebrate throughout the year. And let's be real, if you're anything like me, you're going to be hitting spots like St. Elmo, 1933 Lounge, HC Tavern, and Harry and Izzy's plenty of times throughout the year. Whether it's happy hour, pre-gaming Pacers or Indians games, celebrating birthdays, or just a night out on the town, you'll already be set up with bonus dollars to spend. So pick up some Hughes Culinary gift cards at St. Elmo, Harry and Izzy's, 1933 Lounge, or HC Tavern. Or you can order them online at hughesculinary.com. Treat your friends, your family, and let's be honest, treat yourself. Either way, you're getting more for your money. And I don't think a lot of people, at least in the like digital age, that think about like, I don't know, the most like don't go into branches. Right. They're just like, okay, I download the app and I put my money in and blah, 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 blah. Like it's just a platform.
That's right.
Versus the impact that having the money stay in our community can make, like the difference that can make for Indiana, for Indianapolis. Like that's
and there
so
are definitely segments of the population that don't care about that. They want the best rate, whatever. They want the app that's seamless. They don't care, right? And that's okay. That works. There's also a large segment that, okay, I'm about to buy a house. This is the biggest investment of my life. I want to go into a branch and talk to someone because this is a big deal. Or I trust Wall Street. I'm okay investing in stocks, but you know what? My rainy day fund, I want it to be in a savings account that I can like go talk to somebody about. Yeah. And so there's a customer service touch and feel.
Talk to me about that from like a business owner perspective of why having a business relationship with, let's say, Elements or a credit union, where you can go in and talk to the person you're doing business with on a finance side, why that matters.
It is a huge reduction in friction to be, if you have a problem and you can go into a branch, which branches they've sort of migrated from being transaction centers. 30 years ago, people went into branches to cash checks and to get money orders and do that kind of thing. They've migrated away from that, and now they're problem resolution centers, right? So if you're a business owner and you've got an issue, if you've got a sticky situation that you need to explain, or you've got a problem, it's great to be able to walk in and talk to a banker and say, here's the situation, as opposed to getting in the queue on the phone and trying to get somebody to help you. And now banks do that too. Banks have branches and they provide all that service.
You're doing
as
a
well.
good Switzerland. He's Switzerland when it comes to it, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that because you're not just coming here saying like the end all be all is credit unions,
that's
you
right.
know.
That's right.
But as someone who like does have business accounts with Elements, it's really interesting as I think about the growth of our business. I think that sometimes like the bigger institutions, like if you don't hit this requirement or this thing, like if it's a numbers thing only, if you go to like borrow money, or if you go like you're just number 1,264,702.
That's absolutely true. And we try to think about the things that we do for the benefit of the member.
Yeah.
Of course we want to make money because we have to live to fight another day, right? The phrase that I use is no margin, no mission, right? We can't serve the member, which is our mission, right? If we don't make enough margin to live, right? But the product that we want to sell to the member needs to be something that they need. It needs to not be, oh my gosh, I need to make my numbers this month. I need to get so many mortgages done or whatever. It's like, does the member in front of me need a home equity loan or not? And if the answer is no, we're not going to talk about home equity loans. Do they need an auto loan or not? It's not a numbers game. It's more of a service game and meeting the members where they are and delivering to them the products that they need.
What do you think the biggest misconception about credit unions is?
Exclusivity, that club part that you were talking about before, right? It's like, okay, I'm not a member there, so I guess I can't do business there. Mm-hmm. And we need people to take the next step. Can I be a member of the club?
Yeah, what is that?
Because we make it pretty easy.
I was going to say, what does that take?
You have to be a depositor to be a member. So you have to open an account and put money on account. It's
pretty similar to like being
it's pretty easy. Yeah,
okay.
It's pretty easy.
So that it's not like you have to do something special or like
there is some process involved of, we call it memberizing, which means turn them into a member. So there's some technical things that we need to do on the backside. But it's not difficult.
Can you, let's say you open a high yield savings account.
Yep.
Might be what someone in this room did a little bit ago. I don't know.
Thank you for your business.
Yeah, right. So then can anyone come and get like, let's say if it was an auto loan, is it for member, like the products there are for members?
Right. You have to be a member in order to get a loan. But you could walk in and you could say, hey, I'm brand new. This is day one. I want to borrow money to buy a car. The answer is okay. Well, let's memberize you first. Let's get
and it's like, what if it was like, is there a minimum to be a member?
It's only $5.
$5.
Yeah.
So you could become a member with $5.
You could.
And you could, come in and say, okay, I'm now a member of Elements and I'm looking to find a good product for a car or a house or whatever.
That's right. And of course, the hope is that you're not just there for the auto loan and then you leave, right? The hope is that you're going to enjoy the experience and you're going to, a couple months later, a couple years later, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to open up a high yield savings account now because I've got a little bit of savings I'd like to do something with. Mm-hmm. Or now it's time to buy a house. And man, that car experience was awesome. So I'm going to talk to them about a mortgage.
I think it's interesting for business owners, especially, to think about not just being a number.
Yeah.
The community belief part, I think that it's real. From my outside perspective, granted, I've never gone to a bank and said, hey, could I have $250,000 to open my restaurant? But like, I do think that having a face-to-face connection with your finance professional matters. From your side, is that just like an old wives' tale?
No, it's true.
It's true?
It's absolutely true. And it's much more true, in my opinion, on the small to medium-sized business than the ultra-large businesses, right? So like when I was at Eli Lilly, I didn't bank with Eli Lilly Federal Credit Union, right?
I mean, do business with.
I see what you did there.
Come on.
Yeah, really nice. So I didn't do business with them from the treasury perspective. I dealt with, the JP Morgans, the Goldman Sachses, the big folks of the world. And it was easier as a large company to do business with a large financial institution. If you're a sole proprietor, if you're a small business owner, if you're trying to grow your business, if you're on the smaller side, I think it's very important to have that touch.
Let's say this. There's a food truck owner out there. They're doing, I don't know, 75 to 100K a year, pretty good margins, all that stuff. I think a lot of small business owners think there's no chance I could ever, get a loan to turn my food truck into a brick and mortar place. Yeah. Like, it just doesn't seem real. And maybe they're experts at whatever their food of choice is. They're not experts in finance. Right. And like doing that, like while you're also working nights, weekends, growing your business, seems really complicated and hard.
It is. Yeah, very.
Yeah, right? But like, When you think about the factors that go into, getting a small business loan or something like that, what do you all look at from your perspective?
So fundamentally, if we're going to lend money, this is going to sound, cold and heartless, but we need to be paid back, right? And so,
And not just you, the members.
Absolutely.
Like as a member,
That's right.
I hope that you get paid back.
that's right.
And as a borrower, I hope to pay you back.
That's the way it works. You got to remember that the member that you're dealing with that needs to borrow money, if it's too risky, right? If the likelihood of that particular member paying us back is low, we should not make that loan because that's going to negatively impact all the rest of the members, right? And so it's not a charity where we would provide money that we don't think we're ever going to see again. So for small business owners, you look at their business, you try to understand their business. You may be more willing to take a chance on them if they're in the community, but it needs to be a sound business decision. You have to believe that you're going to get paid for it and you're going to get your money back. Otherwise, you're socializing the loss across all the rest of the members, which is not cool. So smaller banks and credit unions, I think, tend to lean into a little bit riskier businesses, a little bit more local businesses, but you still have to do a credit analysis. It's got to be a smart
it
business
starts with that.
decision,
It starts with
all that
like
stuff.
if all things considered, like this business makes more money than it loses. Like they're running a profitable business, but like I think that times you can run a profitable business. Again, let's go back to the food truck analogy.
Yeah.
Let's say making $100K a year, profits of 40, 50 grand. Okay, let's say 50, just make it even. So 50 grand a year, but to get a restaurant built out, that's going to take you 5 years to get $250,000 saved up. And that's like, that's assuming you're not spending any of your 50 grand on like,
That's right.
I don't know, eating yourself or, like, like, I don't know, you have to buy new equipment. So it could take a long, long time to save up whatever it is to take the next step in your restaurant journey.
That's right.
And when you see that, what are the other factors? So let's say the table stakes is it's a solid business that makes money. What else goes into the decisions for small business owners out there of whether or not you guys would lend to them to help their restaurant dreams come to life?
Yeah, so we talked about diversification
Yeah.
earlier, right? We would look at our loan book, and if we had nothing but food trucks trying to turn themselves into restaurants, we might not do the next one, right? Because then we're putting all of our eggs in that individual industry basket, right? And so we would look at the individual creditworthiness of the bank. We would or the
business.
The business. We would look at our existing loan book to see is there room in our book. Then we look at the industry that the business is in, and do we believe that it's viable over the long term? And are we willing to park our money with that business for 5 years or 7 years in order for them to generate the returns?
I never knew it was. I thought it was literally like EBITDA, profits, loss, blah, 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 blah. All right, looks good or looks bad.
We do a fair bit of hospitality, so hotels in our commercial book. There will come a point, we have a lot of hospitality in our book, and if we add the next hotel deal, we've probably got too much.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we didn't like that marginal deal, that very next deal. That just means, you know what, we need to do some food truck business, or we need to do, some other, commercial business to. And again, it's diversification.
That's really interesting to think about. And like the fact that there's a human back there looking at Nate Spengel's media company and saying, you know what? We don't have it. We need to diversify into some media company a little bit here. That's interesting. Yeah. Risk. I want to go back into risk. Obviously, you talk about diversifying the risk of a credit union, diversifying the risk of your portfolio. But you personally seem to continue to lean into risk.
Wow.
Well, you 10 years at IU Health, correct?
That's right. Yep.
And then you get the opportunity to come over to Elements.
That's right.
We were talking about this a little bit before recording about taking risk or leaps or different challenges later in your career. How old were you when you decided to come over and join the Elements team?
Let's see, 57.
Whether it was at Lilly or whether it was at IU Health, you could have kind of just chilled.
Yeah, so the thing there, I think it's interesting, right? So hopefully the listeners will too. I had a great job at IU Health. I liked my job. I liked the people I worked with. My boss was awesome. I was getting tired of working, and I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking I need to retire pretty soon, right? I didn't know what that meant. Was I going to retire and stop doing anything? Not really sure, but I think I'm going to retire. So I told my boss that I was going to retire in like a year and a half. So gave her plenty of notice. And then the opportunity kind of fell out of the sky with Elements. I was on the board. We had a CEO that left unexpectedly, and all of a sudden the board was like, "Yikes! What do we do? We need a leader." And so the chair of the board came over to me and basically said, "Hey, Johnny, like."
Then you were voluntold.
I was kind of voluntold, right? And initially I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it, right? Because I'm retiring in a year and a half, right? I'm ready to stop this. And he's a really smart guy, and he said, how about you come over as the interim CEO, right? Make sure everything's working fine, help us identify a successor, but it buys us some time to do this smartly, right? And come on, John, you're going to retire in a year anyway. Why don't you just do something fun for the last year of your career? And he was very convincing. And I was on the board, so I already knew Elements. I knew a lot of the executives. I had affection for the organization because I've been with it for a long time. So I thought, what the heck? And so it was a little bit of a risk, right? But I was planning on retiring in a year anyway. And boy, that would be kind of cool to, be the CEO of an awesome organization for, spend the last year of my career doing that, right? So I agreed to do it. So I came over as the interim CEO in January of 23. Yeah, it's longer than a year. You're giving me the look.
Wait, I might not be a treasurer or an accountant, but it doesn't seem like that's a year.
Yeah. So a couple months in, it was just a wonderful confluence of events. I was like, this is actually kind of fun. And the board was pleased with how things were going. And so then we started talking about, okay, maybe you could stick around for a little longer. And then they sucked me in. So I'm going to.
What advice would you have for people that might be later in their career that have been doing something similar for a long time that might be looking for that reinvigoration and looking to, find that spark?
It's really simple. It's just be brave and try it.
Because the easy thing to do is just say, you know what, this is not my monkeys, not my circus, somebody else's issue.
That's right. Like we were saying before we started, inertia is a powerful force. It is super easy to keep going in the direction that you're going. And you need to be smart about it. If you've got a family to take care of, you can't be reckless, right? Yeah. But if you're later in your career, you're reasonably established. If you're feeling like, I wouldn't mind doing something different, do something different. It's just take the leap because it's usually rewarding. And if it's not rewarding, it's probably fixable.
Was it a big transition to go from finance to people? I feel like CEO is a lot of people problems versus finance is a lot of numbers problems.
For sure. It's been a little bit of a mix, right? When I was in Switzerland, I did more than numbers. I was a general manager basically of that organization. So I had some people problems in Switzerland too. So I had a taste of it, right? I'm focused on the numbers, and now all of a sudden I care about the entire business, not just the investments or whatever. The other big change for me was, I guess, two other big changes. One, I had only worked at large organizations. In my Chicago time, I was at big companies. Eli Lilly is enormous. IU Health is really, really big, right? So all of a sudden I move into a smaller organization where every single employee, right? I've never had that before. So that was a big change. And then the other one that was a change for me, I was very familiar with Elements because I was on the board for a number of years, but there's a huge difference between being a board member and being a member of management. There's a big difference between governance, which is what boards do, and actually running the business, which is obviously what the executives do. That was a big change.
Let's talk about that. I feel like governance is fun. Like it's easy or easier, I would say. Different maybe because it's, you can pontificate on ideas and say like, yeah, someone should really work on increasing the amount of members that we have. And you should do a crazy marketing campaign. And then you leave the board meeting and whoever's in management then says, well, how the heck do we do that?
That is a good way to look at it. And sometimes we feel that way, right? We've got a great board. They're not sending us off on fool's errands, right? If you have a good board that's properly structured, they understand that their role is not to torment management with errands to run, but they are looking out for, in our case, the members, right? So they are representing 100,000 members of this organization, and they are making sure they are governing our behaviors to make sure that we're putting the member first and doing the right thing for them. So if you've got a responsible board, they're not just going to create stuff, right? There is an element of, hey, why don't you go try this? If they're a good board with a good relationship with management can say, oh, okay, I'll do that, but we need to think about this other thing, or there's some, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and let's debate it. So
I think typically the journey goes from management to governance. You go from like being if you're like founder, CEO, board member, versus going from board member to CEO.
I think that's right.
Do you think that it gives you an advantage to come from the board perspective into management?
Most of the times when somebody goes from the board to management, it's when there's a troubled situation, like somebody needs to parachute in and save the day. And that wasn't the situation for us. I mean, we had an issue because we had an open CEO position. So it's definitely not normal. But because I had been on the board for a decade or so, I think I had the advantage over a CEO coming in from the outside.
What was the biggest lesson you learned going from big companies to going to a smaller organization?
As the leader of the small organization, I learned pretty quickly that words matter and what you say matter. And of course that's true, in all walks of life, but it's a little dangerous as the CEO of a small company to say, I wonder, like, why do we do it that way? Did we ever consider doing it this other way? Right? Just a question. I'm trying to learn, let me explain, understand that. If you're not careful, your team is going to say, oh my gosh, John just told me that we need to do it this new way, and let's go implement this thing. And so they run off and maybe do something that is not a smart thing to do, but I was just asking why do we do that? Let's help understand that. So it was really learning the power of your voice and suggestions.
Yeah. Well, then on the other side, it's like stuff moves fast in smaller organizations. Like you can go from like point A to point B pretty quickly.
It's way less bureaucratic, for sure.
Which is like my companies that I've worked at or been a part of have gotten significantly smaller. Like my first one was like 75 people, and I was like, oh my gosh, 2 layers of people have to like talk about this. I was like. And then it went to 1 layer of people have to talk. Now it's just like, I'll think of something in the morning. And I'm like,
that's right.
Hey, what if we did this? And it's like, all right, let's do it. And then by the end of the day, it's like, okay, we did that. What do we think?
Yeah, large companies have more resources. Small companies are more nimble.
Yeah.
And they're stark in their differences. Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about, we've obviously talked about like the feel good impact of, you go and make a deposit in your local community and then, a hotel. Right. Or someone's food truck could turn into a restaurant.
That's right.
I feel like every company says we are committed to the community. Like we do good in the community. Everyone has whether it's their volunteer day or their this or that. You guys have a really interesting commitment to Central Indiana.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing to give back to the community?
Yeah. So as by rule or by decision, really, I mean we give to the community 1% of our profits every year. So we do it in an interesting way. I think we call it Pitch Fest, right? So we are a not-for-profit. We talk to other not-for-profits that are doing good work in the community. We give them an opportunity to come in and say, hey, here's what we do, and we're really excited about it. And they're hoping they can get us excited about it, and we can give them a grant, which is a portion of the profits that we set aside for that. And we do that every year.
How long have you guys been doing that?
5 to 10 years. I don't know. That's been a while.
Okay. And so like how many, like last year, for instance, how many different organizations and like what was the impact that that Pitch Fest made?
Yeah, I would say, probably 5 or 6 entities, get dollars, and they get dollars anywhere from, just a couple $1,000s to many thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And the impact for the individual organizations are different. And the thing that I like about it is it's based on what they need. It's like, hey, we need a new delivery truck for whatever, or we're trying to expand in this sort of area. And it resonates with us. It's a little bit of a competition to decide who's gonna get allocated, and then we do.
Like they're your pillars, right? Like Elements has pillars in which the community, you guys get behind and support.
Absolutely, yeah.
The pillars of giving are homelessness and housing, youth development, and healthy lifestyles.
That's right.
I think that's really interesting. One of the ways you guys made this commitment is by partnering with us, we do the nonprofit spotlight.
Right.
A big piece of when people ask, like, what's the hardest part about running the Get In podcast is there are so many amazing stories of people who are doing great things in our community that need to be told. Like, we get lots and lots and lots of emails every single week about this nonprofit and that, and like we could put out 15 episodes a week about nonprofits that are doing great work in our community. And you guys came alongside us and said, hey, we're going to help tell those stories. And so I think over the course of this year, we're doing 12 different episodes all about nonprofits. And we teamed up with you guys and kind of shared a little bit of these homelessness and housing, youth development, and healthy lifestyles. So one of the greatest ones we've had, we had Wheeler Mission on to talk about homelessness in central Indiana. And if anyone hasn't listened to that episode, it blew my mind. Like, we've put out 200 and something episodes so far. And if I think back about episodes that just reframed the way I thought about things, it's that one. I saw homelessness and housing as a structure problem. Like, we need more structures, like physical spaces to sleep. And after hearing this story, there's just so many more complexities that go into someone's journey to homelessness. Sure. Sometimes it is like a tragic, like a fire or something that creates a need that needs to be filled, like with a physical space. But a lot of times it's like these lifestyle choices or, mental health and all of these different destructive decisions maybe at times that have happened in this person's life. So
it can also be a lack of a support system, right? I mean, I think about it like as I'm driving to work, if I have a flat tire, right, I pull over, I call my boss, I say, hey, I'm going to be in late today, somebody comes and picks me up. I've got a support network. I've got the means to fix that tire, and it's a pain.
Your
for me.
AAA membership,
That's exactly right. So it's a hassle. It turns into a story that I tell over cocktails, that evening, right? The other individual's driving to work in his car and he has a flat tire, right? And he calls his boss and says, hey, I'm going to be in late today. And the boss is like, no, you're not. Like you're working on the assembly line. You need to be here. If you're not here, you're going to lose your job. And he's not there, and he loses his job. And then all of a sudden he can't make his next payment. And all of a sudden he gets into that unfortunate spiral, not because he's a bad dude, not because he's not working hard, not because he's not, thinking about things, but he just didn't have the support system that, somebody like me does. Right. And all of a sudden he needs a place like Wheeler Mission to give him a place to stay for a little while. And it's because he had a flat tire.
Yeah. Well, we had Brian in. Brian is, I believe, the director of marketing at Wheeler Mission.
Okay.
He showed up there like needing help. Like he showed up there. He was an alcoholic and had made so many destructive decisions in his life. Wow. And he said his journey and a lot of people's journey is like, if something like that happens, then let's say you can't make your payment, there's someone to take you in, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, friend, like you have a couch to sleep on.
That's right.
And he said he had burned so many bridges time and time again that finally every relationship in his life had said like, no, you've fooled me once, shame on you, fooled me twice, like all. Yeah. He's like, this has fooled me 15 times. Yeah. And his parents finally said like, you have to get help. And they dropped him off. And he said, he was calling, like, on the drive home, he calls him and says like, what the heck? This is a homeless shelter. Like this was supposed to be rehab. You drop me off at a homeless shelter. Like come get me. And they're like, no. And he said that moment changed his life.
Wow.
And it's a while. I will encourage anyone to go listen to that. But it's awesome to see you guys, your commitment to helping in that space. And I think that sometimes people think that that's just a structure thing. Like, putting in a structure to end homelessness. And it's just so much deeper than that. So I encourage people to go listen to our Nonprofit Spotlight episodes over the next year. And we're really grateful for the partnership with Elements to make that happen.
Happy to be partners.
We've come to the end of the show where we talk all things Indiana.
Okay, awesome.
Are we excited about this?
Absolutely.
This question is brought to you by our friends at JC Hart. They're a leader in creating enjoyable living experiences in apartment communities all across Indiana and beyond. Check them out at homeisjchart.com. My question for you, John, from Chicago back to Indy, over to Switzerland, back to Indy, why do you call Indiana home?
Fundamentally, it's where I'm from, right? I didn't ask to be born here, but I was, right? And you lay down roots, you bloom where you're planted, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely home for me. My family's here. My wife's family's here. My wife, by the way, high school sweetheart, also a Pike High School. Go Red Devils. Yes. So we've got roots in the community. It's hard to go away, but it's just been home for a long time.
Okay, what team did you ride for? A team when you were in Little Five at IU?
I was in Acacia fraternity, and so I was on a fraternity.
Do they still have a team?
I'm not sure they're on campus today, actually.
Okay, well, this is a hypothetical thought exercise I want to go through.
Okay.
Would you rather an Acacia Little 500 victory or an IU football national championship? You have to pick one.
IU football national championship.
Bang, too easy.
Yeah.
And this is from a cycling aficionado.
Yeah. I've been a long-suffering IU football fan, right? And it'll be really great if we can actually turn the corner.
Okay. Would you rather attend an IU national championship or the Tour de France?
I have attended the Tour de France, so I'll say IU again.
Wow. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Elements was named a best place to work in Indiana. What's one perk that the entire company loves?
When I ask people what they like about the company, they always say the people. Right? We're a small organization. We have less than 200 people. We've got the Hoosier hospitality, Hoosier nice kind of vibe going. Everybody there has drank the Kool-Aid. They believe in the credit union mission, the people helping people, and so they really, really enjoy the people that they work with.
I think that's a constant thing in Indiana. People do big things.
Yeah,
people make the place too.
Yeah,
longtime finance guy.
Correct.
Like, have seen a lot of dollars, yen, whatever your term for dinero is. You know a lot about it. What is the smartest financial decision you've ever made?
Start saving early. Pay yourself first. Contribute to your 401k. Put your money away. This is a finance joke, I guess, but the joke I tell is that the two strongest forces in the universe. One is inertia. We've already talked about that. But compound interest is the other one. Start saving money at your first job because time is your friend. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think it has to be a ton too.
No, it does not. Yeah.
Even like $5 a
That's
paycheck can over time. Like, I don't know. I don't have my compound interest calculator out, but it can end up making a big impact for sure.
It absolutely does.
Okay. What's something you wish you would have done different from a finance perspective when you were, in your early 20s?
Graduated, moved to Chicago. I bought a car because that's what you do, right? When you got it.
Well, not in Chicago, but
that's why it was a mistake. I didn't know that. My now wife, then girlfriend, lived in Ohio. I needed a vehicle to get there, right? But that expensive car sat in a parking lot in Chicago, covered in snow. It was just a bad financial decision. Really.
Well, we won't
really
dive into
dumb.
the fact that, but traveling to see your future wife was a great.
Important.
Well, you could have taken the bus.
or rented a car, I mean, good Lord. So yeah, that was a bad decision.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Not the visiting the wife part. That part was good.
Yeah. Thanks for the save.
What has been the biggest lesson in people management that you've learned over the past couple of years as CEO of Elements?
Everybody's fighting demons that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you want people to work hard. You want to give grace. We're in a business. We're running a business. You need to work hard. As my older brother told me years ago, it's called work. It's not called recess, John. Right? But people are carrying burdens that you don't know about. So just give them some grace.
Favorite Indiana University tradition?
Candy stripe basketball pants.
I mean,
it's awesome.
Yeah. Was it more fun to ride in Little Five, or like would you, if you could go back and all things equal, you've seen what your friends say, would you rather ride or be a spectator of Little Five?
Oh, they're both awesome. It's
like, it's always so interesting to me. It's like, I mean, how many people ride in it?
33 teams of 4 people.
Okay, so 120 something a year.
Yeah.
We don't do public math. Even if we're math people, we don't do public math on the pod. So 120 people-ish a year, like, versus the thousands and thousands that gets this, like, for some people, it's like, this is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I would probably say ride as opposed to watch, because riding in the race is a culmination of months and months and months of working hard and working together as a team and achieving common goals and all that. So it's kind of the ultimate. It's the pinnacle of all the effort that you've put in for the last 8 to 12 months. Whereas if you're spectating, it's super exciting, right? But it's just a weekend.
You think about the sacrifices that some of those teams make. It's like Thursday night, the whole rest of the fraternity's going out to drink beer, and
that's right.
You're on the trainer just ripping miles.
That's true.
I did a full Ironman a few years ago.
Oh, awesome!
And
which one did you do?
I did the Woodlands, so it's just outside of Houston, Texas.
Okay, awesome.
And this was like I don't know, we had the idea over Christmas break. So we signed up for one in April. So it was 4 months. And training in Indiana, I love Indiana, everyone knows that. Training for a bike ride, training to cycle in Indiana during January, February, March.
It's hard.
Challenge. So I was on the trainer every Friday night for like a 4-hour ride on a trainer.
It's terrible.
The part that makes it terrible isn't necessarily that you're just like pedaling there, is that you have to have so much discipline, because being done is right there.
That's right.
Like, if you bike 50 miles away, like, you're kind of screwed because you got to bike 50 miles back.
That's right.
But like, I'm at mile whatever, and being done, the bathroom, the fridge, whatever is right there. The couch. I literally I have a bachelor pad, so I literally separated my sectional couch and put my bike right in the center of the living room. So it's just me pedaling away. Yeah. And it was brutal. My 5th outdoor ride ever was Ironman, Texas.
Wow.
I had ridden.
Oh my gosh.
I had ridden outside 5 times total.
Oh my gosh.
And I think we did a 10 mile, a 15 mile, a 20 mile, a 100 mile, and then 112 for Ironman, Texas. Wow. It was crazy. So I've not been on the bike since. I'm not a fan of cycling. Just because I have such bad memories of another evening on the bike. Amazing. We've come to the final part of the show where I ask the same 3 questions to every guest that comes on.
Okay.
So, first question. You went to Switzerland, and people ask where you're from. You say Indiana and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
What's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
It's a great place where you can have a well-rounded life. It's easy to work. The cost of living is low, so you can afford to do stuff. We have 4 seasons. It's the weather is honestly great because you have all four seasons. Mm-hmm. It's easy to live, work, and play in Indianapolis.
Yeah. I think we've had people too from other places, like they maybe grew up in Florida, grew up in California, wherever, and they're like, I actually like the 4 seasons.
Yeah.
I feel like if it was always so nice out or whatever, you wouldn't get the same appreciation you do as I love the first snow. I don't love the 50th snow, but I love the first snow. Yep. Just like I love the first day of summer, the first day of spring, you just have something to look forward to.
That's right.
I like that one. This is your opportunity to shed some light on a part of Indiana that more people need to be talking about. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
Hoosier National Forest is awesome.
It's huge.
It's enormous. I first was exposed to it, riding my bike through it in southern Indiana, right? But fall, the hills, the leaves, it's a beautiful place. And they've got lots of awesome gravel roads. I ride my gravel bike in Hoosier National Forest. There's trails to hike on. It's a beautiful place you can camp. I'm not a hunter, but you can hunt there. You can camp, hike, ride your bike. Beautiful. It's a great place.
Tons of recreation.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is the final question where we get to learn about someone in our state who's making an impact. This is where we get guest recommendations. Who's a Hoosier we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
So I'm on the board of a not-for-profit called Firefly Children and Family Alliance. It used to be called Children's Bureau. They provide a lot of care for people less fortunate than you and I. But it's all about strengthening families, and they deal with child abuse prevention. They help with the foster system. They help provide low-income workers with CCDF vouchers for childcare and all that. So they really facilitate family-oriented things. And the CEO of Firefly is a woman named Tina Cloer, Cloer. She's awesome. I believe, I hope I don't get this wrong, but I believe she went through the foster program as a child, right? So now she lived the experience of what was then the Children's Bureau, and now she came back and she's running the organization. So she's president and CEO, and I would say she's a wonderful, wonderful person, but she also has that mix of, there are a lot of leaders of not-for-profits out there that are doing great work, but they're less awesome at running a business.
Yeah.
And Tina does both of them really, really well. She's got empathy and she cares deeply, but she knows how to run a business too.
That's awesome.
So she's top shelf.
Yeah. We're going to need to get her on the show and talk about that. Especially, learning about the story. And I do think a lot of times, just because they're not for profit doesn't mean they shouldn't make money or find a way to make, because that means you make a bigger impact.
That's exactly right. And you're sustainable, right? If you don't make any money, you're going to go away. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to live to fight another day.
Yeah. I always love hearing about the organizations that find a way to not solely rely on like the grants or whatever it is, but people buy this thing from us. I think that's really interesting. We had Jeffrey Mittman. Okay. He is the CEO of Bosma Industries.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Crazy story. Absolutely crazy. But he talks about that. Like, we're a company. They're a nonprofit. Right. But they're a company with a mission. Like, they're a company that has a mission, is how he says it. Like, they do Salesforce consulting and they do warehousing, shipping, they sell products. Right. And it just so happened that they employ, half their staff is visually impaired. Sure. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a business guy. He's here making an impact. And then on the other side, they have all these services they offer for the Hoosiers that are visually impaired.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
John, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a little bit about your background from the West Side, Pike High School, down to Bloomington, over to Switzerland, back to Indiana, a brief stint in Chicago, but also learning about the foundation of Elements that started back in 1930 as Eli Lilly Federal Credit Union. Why credit unions were important. I think that's an interesting piece of perspective. And the value that all of us can have, whether you're on the commercial side, looking for a finance partner, looking for someone to do business with, right? To what that can mean for a depositor, keeping their money in your community and the impact that can make, whether it's financing new hotels or taking someone's food truck and helping turn that into a brick and mortar restaurant.
Absolutely.
I think that's so cool. And learning that there are people back behind the screens, pulling the levers and seeing and you're not just a number.
That's right.
I think that's really cool. That's why I'm really excited that we're partnered up with y'all. I'm really excited for, the nonprofit spotlight that we're doing and just the way y'all are making an impact in Central Indiana, serving members all across not only the state, but the world.
That's right.
I think it's awesome, and it was great to get to hang out for a little bit.
Great. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Sounds great.
This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all my gear recommendations at Sweetwater. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.